Good morning, everybody listening to the sound of my voice. This is the Around the Association podcast, the Wednesday edition, and I'm your host, Danny Thompson, checking in with you live, checking in this morning. And it is a 3-game night in the NBA that you missed on Tuesday night, so let's fill you back in with everything that happened. It was an interesting night, a record-setting night in Los Angeles. You had a severe injury in Atlanta, potential severe injury in Atlanta. And you had Dallas and the Denver Nuggets going back and forth in kind of a heavyweight type of bout out in the Mile High City. So before we continue, follow me on Twitter at Danny DANNY 3 Thompson, or on Facebook. Follow the website on Facebook, which is Around the Association. On the Facebook side, if you're following the website, it is www.aroundtheassociation.com. Also subscribe to the podcast on Spreaker, on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, on Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, and pretty soon headed to iTunes as well too. So a pretty light night in the NBA. You know, two national TV games that were on NBA TV last night, and then you had the Denver and Dallas game that was going down to the wire. And so let's start with the top story of the night. Out in Atlanta, actually in Miami, it was Jimmy Butler's home opener. First game for Jimmy Butler. He missed the first 3 games due to the birth of his first child. Congratulations to Jimmy and his girlfriend out in Miami. And he came out on a house of fire at the beginning of the game. 12 points early on, looking like the dominant Jimmy Butler that we've been wanting to see. And then them and the Atlanta Hawks were trading punches back and forth. And then next thing you know, it all went bad for Atlanta at that point. Trae Young goes down, grabbing his right ankle. The good news for Hawks fans is that the X-rays taken at American Airlines Arena last night by the Hawks came back negative, but the Hawks will run MRI sometime today, and hopefully no damage will be found for Trae Young. He left with a right ankle injury, and then as soon as that happened, Tyler Herro goes off in the second quarter, scores 19 of his 29 points in the second quarter as the Miami Heat take care of business over the Atlanta Hawks last night by the final score of 112-97. It was really, like I said, Tyler Herro going off. Jimmy Butler had his numbers, 21 points for the Heat. But like I said, Herro just did so much damage last night in that second quarter, ripping apart the Hawks completely. It was the same thing that we had saw in preseason for Herro. He just caught fire shooting the basketball. Now, mind you, I said the 19-year-old Herro scored 19 points in that quarter. Gordon Dragic had 21 points. Bam Adebayo had a double-double with 17 and 10 points. But I said that the Hawks became a completely different team when Trae Young went down. Like I said, grabbing his ankle. They're saying right now it's a potential sprain. Like I said, we'll know more of the MRI at that point. But Atlanta, they tried their best to keep it in the game. John Collins had 30 points. He didn't even knock down 5 3-pointers. Jabari Parker had 12. But really, like I said, it was more about Herro and Jimmy Butler. Butler finished the game 5 of 11, knocked down his first 4 shots, but got to the line 15 times in the night. Miami shot 33 of 45 from the line. The percentage might not be there, but the fact that they got to the line 45 times compared to the Hawks number, the Hawks I think got to the line last night a grand total of 24 times. So anytime you almost double the opposition when it comes to the free throw line, it's going to be a pretty good night. The Hawks now, the undefeated streak is now over. They're at they lost undefeated streak last night. The Heat will move to their record to 3-1 on the season. But Miami, like I said, was much more of a team effort. And once Trae Young went down, they pretty much collapsed on John Collins. Collins did most of the damage, and the Hawks shooters couldn't do much more outside of it. It was a struggle for most of the night for most of the Hawks guys outside of Collins. Rookie Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter both struggled from the floor, combining for a grand total of 4 for 18 from the floor. And no other player on the Hawks outside of Collins even shot 50% from the floor. So great defensive job by the Heat, holding the Hawks to 42% shooting from the floor. And like I said, Hawks fans have had their collective breath going with Trae Young's situation. Like I said, Trae Young's going to go for an MRI hopefully sometime today. There should be some kind of information set for Trae Young, but they're saying it's a sprained ankle. So the good news is that it's nothing severe, hopefully, on that front. Speaking of record-setting nights out in Los Angeles, of all the years in the NBA, the Los Angeles Lakers have had only 6 guys to go 40 and 20 in the same game. Anthony Davis now makes number 7. Anthony Davis with 40 points, 20 rebounds in his fourth game as a Laker, and set a franchise record. And I did say a franchise record once again. 26 free throws made as the LA Lakers golfed that slow start down at halftime and decides in the second half to turn up the gas and zoom past the Memphis Grizzlies 120-91. Davis, who was questionable when the game started last night with a right shoulder injury that he suffered against the Charlotte Hornets, didn't look like he was in too much pain. Had 16 points and 9 rebounds in the first quarter and just dominated the game. Left the game in the first, sometime in the first quarter to get his shoulder retaped. Came back and just put the pause to the Grizzlies at home at Staples Center. LeBron James finished his night with 23 points and 8 assists. They got 13 points from Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and also 6 rebounds. Hey, KCP is finally back hitting shots again. Laker fans can maybe get off this guy's case right now. JaVale McGee had 10 points and 9 rebounds, also for the Lakers as well too. Memphis was led last night by rookie Ja Morant, who had 16 points. Jonas Valanciunas is still on that minute restriction, but 14 points and 11 rebounds in the 22 minutes he did play last night. And we've had a Grayson Allen signing. Grayson Allen had 13 points off the bench for the Lakers. But really, like I said, the Lakers took off to a slow start, down by 2 at the break because of Davis's tip-in at the end of the half. And the next thing you know, it was just Lakers onslaught at that point. Lakers outscored the Grizzlies in the third quarter, 39-20. It wasn't not just Davis; it was a team effort in the third quarter. Everybody was contributing. James, Pope, Davis, everybody contributed in that third quarter. And the next thing you know, the Lakers going. Like I said, the Grizzlies were up by 6 with 7 minutes to go in the quarter. The Lakers going on a 27-2 run to close out the quarter. Davis, like I said, he had 16 in the first, had 16 in that run. And the crazy part is, all those 16 points. All of those but one basket came from the free throw line. The Lakers fouled 10 points of the third quarter came from Anthony Davis at the free throw line. It was really mostly the Grizzlies just not being able to stop Davis. Davis doing what he wants to. Davis getting to the free throw line and Davis converting them. 26-27 is a huge number. Grizzlies coach Tyler Jenkins was just, amazed by the effort. He said it really was, when you have a guy, Anthony Davis, being super aggressive, you get rewarded, and when you get rewarded when you're aggressive. And that's what he said last night. It was interesting because the Grizzlies came out starting on a house of fire. Like I said, the Grizzlies started the game with a 15-2 run to start the game, and the Lakers were able to battle back. So that's what happened out in LA. In the third game of the night, you had the Dallas Mavericks and the Denver Nuggets play one of the best games of the season. It came down to the wire, but it was just too much. Maxi Kleber and the Dallas Mavericks, as it took care of business, stopping the Denver Nuggets undefeated streak and leaving the Philadelphia 76ers as the only team undefeated left in the NBA, with the Mavericks 109-106 victory in Denver in the Mile High City last night. It was a knockdown, drag out affair. Both teams playing very good defensively. Denver, once again, they're big guys for Denver. Nikola Jokic did not have the game like he had the other night. Jokic, he had a triple-double with 10 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. The thing with Jokic is that he just wasn't there offensively. He only took 8 shots last night. Paul Millsap led the Nuggets with 23 points, but really it was a lot of the Dallas defense keeping everything in check. But Dallas, on the other hand, on the offensive end, was completely balanced. For the first time, Luka Doncic scored under 20 points. The Mavericks had 9 guys in double figures. Just think about this for a second. They scored 109 points, but 9 of those guys scored in double figures. Maxi Kleber led them with 14 points. Tim Hardaway had 14 points off the bench. The Nuggets did so much damage off the bench. They had scored 60 points off the bench, 62 points off the bench last night. It was just nothing but Dallas being a completely balanced team. Dwight Powell made his season debut, had 4 points and 4 rebounds in 13 minutes, gave himself really acclimated, and was the only Dallas player not to be in double figures. Well, Dallas now has turned into one of the surprise teams in the NBA. Dallas is now 3-1 to start the season. And when I say surprise team, because the West is so loaded, you would have thought that the Dallas Mavericks would not be right up there with the more elite teams in the Western Conference early on, but they are. Give Dallas a lot of credit. Like I said, anytime you can beat beat one of the elite teams in the NBA, and your 2-star players have off nights, Porzingis and Luka Doncic both had off nights, it's a good sign. Doncic and Porzingis combined for 7 of 26 shooting, And you got to give Denver a lot of credit on defense, but the Mavericks' resolve was just too much in the game. And it was one of those games where Denver just didn't get it from everybody. Most of the time, most nights, Will Barton is their main bench guy. Barton was moved into starting out last night, and you can tell they missed the bench presence of Barton because, like I said, getting outscored 62-22 by the bench, it was just completely a huge difference. Denver's bench you didn't get much out of Denver's bench. The starters did well. Every starter scored over 10 points. They had 16 apiece from Gary Harris and Jamal Murray. Like I said, Barton had 19 and 11. But the rest of the bench did not give anything. Miles Plumlee had 7 points. Beasley had 7 points, but you got 16 minutes from Jerry and Grant and got 0 points out of it. That's what happens in the NBA when you don't get any bench scoring. It seems like the teams that outscore you, especially in the league when you have a 2 or 3 to 1 advantage of the bench, that's normally turns to a bad thing. Now, Wednesday night, the NBA, as we transition to Wednesday night, a completely busy 11-game schedule in the NBA scheduled tonight. Let's go over a couple of games, go over what's on the schedule tonight and what to watch for. Well, let's go with the game of the night, which is the two undefeated teams left in the NBA. The Minnesota Timberwolves and the Philadelphia 76ers will tip off at Wells Fargo Center at 7 p.m. tonight. Karl Anthony Towns and Joel Embiid, that's all you have to say. This matchup is going to be fun. The only game with two teams that are undefeated. Sixers are coming off an impressive win over the Atlanta Hawks on Saturday. The Timberwolves, they're continuing their East Coast romp. And like I said, they haven't beaten the strongest Eastern Conference teams. They beat Brooklyn, they beat Miami on Sunday, and then they turn back around and beat the Charlotte Hornets. So this will be another huge test in the Timberwolves early season stretch. Like I said, the Sixers have some great defense. That's pretty much the highlight game of the night. On ESPN, you have a matchup between the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks, two teams that potentially will be in the playoffs, and we know they're going to be in the playoffs. Another playoff type atmosphere. Can Kemba Walker somehow find his shooting stroke? The reason why they brought him in for this reason is because he's one of the best pure shooters in the NBA, also one of the best scorers in the NBA. They also brought him to replace Kyrie Irving and has got off to a completely slow start. This might be the Kemba Walker breakout game that everybody's been expecting. The other game on ESPN will be the late game out in Utah between the LA Clippers and the 3-1 Utah Jazz. Will Mike Conley break out of the shooting slump? Conley has not played well, and this is not the best matchup for him either, going against a Clippers team that has some of the best perimeter defenders in the league, a.k.a. Pat Beverly. The Jazz have played some really good basketball, and Donovan Mitchell has been getting to the rim. Like I said, he helped the Jazz survive the other night against the Phoenix Suns. Can he do that again against the LA Clippers, who have basically been the road warriors of the NBA? They have gone in and beaten pretty much anybody. They've beaten Golden State on the road, and as well, they've won their last couple games at home as well too. Other games on the schedule tonight, we'll start from top to bottom. Bulls and Cavs out in Cleveland. Kevin Love's been fun to watch, and Tristan Thompson's been an offensive admiration, averaging 19 points and 12 rebounds a game against a Bulls team that struggles to grab struggle to find consistency. Hello, Zach LaVine against a 6'2" and 6'1" starting backcourts. This could be the Zach LaVine breakout game we're waiting for. In Orlando, the Knicks take on the Orlando Magic in a stretch of 3 games and 4 nights at home for the Magic. The Magic need to start winning. This is a stretch of games that could potentially either kickstart this team off to a better start, or this could maybe be a tailspin. The Magic have the Knicks tonight. They have the Bucks on Friday and Denver on Saturday, all at home, 3 games and 4 nights. This is a must-win for the Magic. I know you don't want to say those words 4 games into the season, but the Magic are 1-2. If they somehow go out this stretch 0-3, they're going to put them at 1-5, and that's not a good start going into November. In Brooklyn, the 0-3 Pacers take on the 1-2 Nets. The Pacers are a little bit of trouble as one of the 2 winless teams in the NBA between them and the Pelicans. The Nets are coming back home after a heartbreaking loss on Sunday to the Memphis Grizzlies. The Nets have Kyrie Irving. The Pacers have struggled to find scoring outside of Malcolm Brogdon. This is a game where Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis need to find their rhythm, and TJ Warren's got to find some kind of scoring stroke because they brought him in from Phoenix as a big-time scorer, hasn't done much there. Pistons and Raptors in Detroit, the Dwayne Casey return game, of course. Raptors are 3-1, Pistons are 2-2. The Pistons have been a Jekyll and Hyde team. When the bench plays well, the Pistons play well. And I don't mean the bench outside of Derrick Rose. They haven't had much scoring from Luke Kennard since the opener, and the Raptors have been playing some really, really good basketball. Even though Pascal Siakam's numbers have been up and down, Kyle Lowry is looking like the player he was a few years ago, and that's a dangerous situation. But the Raptors starting to extend their bench a little bit. Watch Fred VanVleet tonight. Also watch Serge Ibaka off the bench. Out in the nation's capital, Washington hosts the Houston Rockets. Russell Westbrook and the Beard and the Brody invade DC. This should be a lot of fun. The Rockets are starting to find a little bit of rhythm. Can Eric Gordon jump out of his shooting slump? Just like Mike Conley's in a shooting slump. PJ Tucker's had 15 points. He's averaging 15 points, or has had 15 points in his last 3 games. Has not done that, I don't think, his entire career. 3 straight 15-point games. It's been fun to watch the guy who's always one of the best glue guys in the NBA start scoring baskets. He's been killing the corner 3-pointer. Can the Wizards find ways to close out on him? And 2, James Harden broke out of that slump with a 40-point game the other night in their victory at home against the Pelicans. Can Harden do it again? I'm not saying can Harden do it again, but is this going to be a start of James Harden finally getting that scoring stroke? And Russell Westbrook fell 1 assist short from a second triple-double of the season. In Oklahoma City, Blazers and Thunder. Blazers almost erased a 19-point lead against the Spurs the other night, showing they have a lot of momentum. The Thunder at 1-3, just falling short to Houston the other night in the Chris Paul game, the Chris Paul return home game. Chris Paul didn't play very well, didn't shoot very well, also got a technical foul. Also had 6 turnovers in the game too. Now you're going against one of the best backcourts in the NBA. The one thing the Blazers have to be able to do is make sure they can keep keep Steven Adams off the glass. They got CJ McCollum finally is breaking out of a shooting slump, and they just need a little more contributions. Hello, Anthony Simons. Watch Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 26 points a game this season, has got more 20-point games this season than he's had in his entire career in the first 4 games for the Thunder. Like I said, we mentioned Clippers and Jazz. The other 2 late games out in Sacramento, the 1-3 Hornets take on the 0-4 Kings. Could this be the Kings' first win of the season? We will find out. The Hornets have turned into the Hornets that we expected in preseason. The first game they did win at home, in the home opener against the Bulls, but they haven't done much since. They got blown out in second halves by the Lakers and by the Kings on this road trip. Lakers and the Clippers on this road trip. Now you travel to Sacramento. This could be a winnable game, but the Kings might have a little bit of advantage. Speaking of shooting slumps, Mike Conley's had one, Eric Gordon's had one, and where's been Buddy Hield? Buddy Hield got the contract, said he wanted the money. Buddy has not produced. The Kings need Buddy Hield, otherwise it's an 0-5 start for the Kings. Final game of the night out in San Francisco. It's hard to not say Oakland. King and the Warriors take on the Phoenix Suns. The Suns, if you look when the season started, you would expect one of the teams to be 2-2 and not be the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors are the team in this matchup that's under 500. They're at 1-2. This game should be an up and down affair. Steph Curry started finding a shot the other night against the New Orleans Pelicans. Draymond Green had a triple-double after he said the team sucked. The real big stat, the key stat of the game is what's been going on with D'Angelo Russell and your boy Steph Curry. The one part about this matchup is Steph Curry and D'Angelo Russell are a negative 26 together on the floor. Curry's a positive 6 when Russell's off the floor. That's got to get fixed, and that's got to get fixed immediately. They got to find, they had Damian Lee's contribution of 23-11 the other night against New Orleans when they got their first win. They're going to have to start getting consistency. Right now, the Warriors are going to have to find some other scoring other than Steph Curry. If Curry has one of those nights that he's used to, this should be a pretty interesting game. For the Suns side of things, Ricky Rubio is back. Rubio had a good game, a double-double the other night, his first game back after an injury. This should be an up-and-down affair on NBA League Pass. So, we've given you the NBA also a little more than 20 minutes. Catching you back up. Follow me on Twitter at Danny, D-A-N-Y, 3 Thompson on Twitter. Follow around the association's Facebook page as well as the website. We'll check in with you tomorrow. This is Danny Thompson around the association. We'll check you guys later. Peace.